Hello everybody. Today's video is going to be a review on a book. Understand that this video is going to be a little bit triggering, so you're forewarned. The topic of Rashida Strober never seems to die, and so I kind of dug this book out of my bookcase and just kind of reread it. It's really not that long of a book. It's about 150 some odd pages, but I'm not gonna lie, I can show you really quick how the spacing is in this book. It's double spaced, and the spaces between the words are dramatic. It's like really extra spaced. The publisher, or maybe Rashida herself, whoever made the book, was trying to make the book look longer than technically what it is. If it was organized and margined like a normal book, this probably would be more like a pamphlet. I'm not even joking. But aside from that, I'm not gonna say that this is worth reading or that I recommend a book like this, just simply because it comes off very racist, and it makes me as a biracial person a little uncomfortable reading stuff like this. Probably within the first few pages, I'm just gonna read you this small excerpt, which is more like, I guess, the reason she wrote this book. It says, "Pledge to dark-skinned women and girls. Dark-skinned women and girls, this is my pledge to you. I, the dark-skinned activist Rashida Strober, pledge to change the world for dark-skinned women and girls. Unborn dark-skinned little girls will never experience the pain of being dark-skinned. The unborn dark-skinned baby girl will never experience a cold, unloving world that hates her skin tone. I will work as hard as humanly possible to eradicate discrimination against the beauty of dark skin. Thank you for reading this book. Tell others about it. Never forget the struggle of the dark-skinned woman, for hers is the struggle of the most tortured and abused woman in the history of the world. And for what? The deep, dark, rich color of her skin, the color of the original woman, the color of the classical African woman, and the color of the mother of humanity. Never forget her." It's not the best written book. It's published kind of poorly. There's several grammatical errors, or typos if you will. It's got 6 different women's stories about being dark-skinned and their different struggles. They all kind of tie in at the very last story. I actually wrote down some points that I wanted to speak about. So like I said, it's 6 stories featuring different dark-skinned women's life and their struggles, like school bullying, being called things like darky, ugly, blackie. A lot of the black women in the story were left for a non-black woman. They originally did try to date other dark-skinned men, and they were rejected by those dark-skinned men. There was one woman in the story who had a biracial child that she tried to keep away from dating black men because she didn't want her child to have a dark-skinned child and then that child go through what she had went through. There was one particular dark-skinned woman who dated a Latin man who accepted her dark skin and the fact that she was obese, only to turn out that he was gay. And then there was a story about a mentally challenged dark-skinned woman who was repeatedly taken advantage of by men. She had given birth to 8 children, all who had different fathers, and because of her level of retardation, I guess she wasn't allowed to raise any of those kids. And there was a story about a dark-skinned woman's plight within the workplace and how she had constantly been overlooked for white women or just lighter black women, and at one point she was even told to remove her hair locks for a marketing managing job. And again, all of that is like really sad stuff. Like, I completely understand what it's like to be marginalized and ignored by the opposite sex, not due to my skin tone, but other reasons. So I understand what it's like to feel like the world hates you, or like people don't like you and they don't like how you look. But I also know that I was able to change the one thing, being obese at one point in my life. I was able to change that, and so after that, I was a little more accepted, and so life got easier. But when it comes to having dark skin, it's something that you can't actually change. It's something that you're kind of just given, obviously, at birth, and you have to live with and deal with different things that happen to dark skinned people. For the most part, just based on what Rashida said in this book, the worst part of growing up dark skinned is going through public schools, because you're just so bullied and mistreated and things like that. And I don't agree with that stuff at all. Like, I hate the idea of someone being treated better or worse simply due to their skin tone, not because of who they are, not because of what they offer, but just simply off of what they look like. To me, that's wrong. People in the world that they're born a certain way that they cannot change, and so life is therefore different for them. That's what this book was basically about, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I not necessarily enjoyed reading that, because it was, like, again, a pretty sad story. If you're a dark-skinned person and you believe in dark activism, then I do recommend the book. But if you're just a person and you don't need any negativity in your life, stay away from it, because the book is pretty sad. There were some things that I didn't necessarily agree with. There was a part in the book about Kendrick Lamar. It was about his particular woman at the time, who I believe was either mixed race, or maybe she was white and just looked mixed or something like that. But she was pretty much upset that this supposed black activist or black empowerment person, I guess Limelight, chose a woman that's considered not black. And to me, I don't think that's necessarily right. I don't think you should try to judge people based on their preferences. You can't force the opposite sex to date you. And I don't think it's fair to try to make them feel bad for not choosing you. That comes off like mad jealous, and it just comes off possessive. Like, sometimes I think black women feel like they own black men or something. They own the rights to them. And it's like, you know, you kind of don't. People have free will. And in this country, specifically in America, people have the freedom of choice, and they can date whoever they want and not, you know, for the most part, feel any backlash. But then you still have people in this generation even, who still feel like there is something wrong with people dating outside their race or dating somebody who's a different skin tone. And you can't make them feel bad or try to make them feel bad for not choosing you. That's wrong. To me, that's just as wrong as somebody making fun of you and calling you blackie and calling you ugly. And that's the one thing that I can say makes Rashida Strober come off a little bit crazy. Nobody except another dark-skinned man has no choice of no other woman except somebody who looks like you. Why? Why limit yourself? Why limit other people? Especially in this country where we have the rights. We have one quote that stuck out to me specifically, and I actually wrote it down. All these women in her life were disgraced, pushed aside, and insulted because of one thing: their dark skin. And when it comes to that, I don't agree with it. I don't think that they should be pushed aside. I don't think they should be disgraced or insulted. Like, people are wrong for that. You are definitely wrong for making fun of somebody's skin tone. We're not in slavery days anymore. All of those ideologies and things that existed back then, we need to get away from it, because clearly we're in positions to be the best that we can be, no matter who you are, no matter what race you are, no matter what you look like. This particular woman has a master's degree. She's obviously written books. She's done plays. She's traveled. Like, nobody's holding you back. So obviously anything that you may have been feeling back then was internal. You took the bullying and you let it affect you in a way where it made you an activist, which is good. So now you're doing something positive about it, but at the same time, you're pushing it so hard, you're being so pushy about it, that you're gonna actually turn men off, because they're gonna look like, hey, you can't force me to be with you. Like, I appreciate your passion for this particular subject, but to force the idea of making someone like you is just, it's never gonna happen. They either do or they don't, because we're all human and we're just in these shells. We're literally just in a shell. And who you are on the inside is really what matters. So make sure that you're not coming off too forceful with your activism. But the problem is, just because you're trying to force the idea that you're beautiful doesn't mean that people are going to accept it. And that may be a harsh reality for her to kind of come to terms with. You can be beautiful in your lane. You can be beautiful to someone, but honey, you're not gonna be beautiful to everyone. I'm not gonna be beautiful to everyone. Nobody is gonna be beautiful to everyone. And you can't make it like this is just some horrible thing to be dark skinned, because I just can't imagine that every dark skinned woman feels like this. I can't. I would hope that this lady has taken the bullying and things that she's went through and it like psychologically affected her or something, and to where she feels like she needs to get some level of revenge. I sincerely hope that this is literally just her and not every dark-skinned woman. But yeah, guys, that's all I gotta say about it. Thanks for watching. You reading? What is it about? What is it about?